Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today our special guest is George Dukas. He's the CEO and co-founder of Sense Miles. Welcome to the show, George. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Otto. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you. So I'd like to get the audience to get to know you as a person a little better. Are you around from the DMV area?
I am. So born and raised in Falls Church, Virginia, many years ago. So I went to high school at Jeb Stuart High School, which I think has now since changed the name. And then grew up in different areas in around here. So Falls Church, Vienna, Alexandria, Leesburg, McLean. So I've lived in all of them.
Okay, great. So always Northern Virginia.
Always Northern Virginia, 4 years in DC while I went to school.
Okay. So growing up in Northern Virginia, what were you into growing, as a child? Were you into certain sports or activities?
Yep, played basketball in high school and college, and then played golf was the other sport.
High school and college as well?
Golf in high school and college as well.
Okay. Where'd you end up attending for college?
I went to George Washington University.
Okay. So you really stayed local throughout your whole life?
Yeah, never left the area, which is a little unusual. Very transient area around here.
It is. I'm similar. I grew up in DC, then around high school, moved to Maryland and went to University of Maryland here in College Park. So same way, always stuck in this area. I thought about for a moment going up to New York City after I graduated college, but stuck around here.
Maryland's like another country though. It's like nobody from Virginia goes to Maryland. Maryland people don't come to Virginia.
Traffic. Yes.
It's terrible. It's just starting to come back now too.
Yeah, it is. I'm starting to see that. Okay, so you went to college at GW, you said, right?
I did.
Okay. What'd you major there?
Marketing and business.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, George.
I was there from, I hate to give the years, but 77 to 80.
Okay. So you majored in marketing and business. Did you always have an interest? Did you know going in as far as going into marketing and business, or what made you decide that?
Yeah, I just knew I wanted to be in business, not necessarily marketing. So I originally came out of college wanting to go be a stockbroker. And soon after, within days, I was in the family business.
Yeah, and that was the reason I was thinking of going up to New York, because I was thinking of Wall Street. I interned at a company, Smith Barney Citigroup, with a couple of wealth advisors here, and I had that experience.
Right.
Okay.
It's a great job to get. It's high stress, but you can do really well with it.
Yes, you can. So you were thinking about stockbroker in the Senate, and you said in the end you decided to do the family business?
Yeah, went into the family business, which was a flower shop, believe it or not, in Seven Corners Shopping Center.
Okay.
Years ago. So I went into that, did that for a little bit. So.
And it was one location in Seven Corners?
Yeah, we had one location, Seven Corners, and that stuck around probably till the early 90s when they renovated the whole, the area around Seven Corners area.
What made you, obviously it's a family business, but a lot of people go into it. Some people decide to do totally something different on left field.
Right.
What made you to continue with the family business at the end of the day?
A couple factors. One, the business was doing pretty good, but had room to grow. So, and my father at that point was getting ready to retire. So it was sort of a transitional thing.
Sure.
Also, it was the third generation in the business. So my grandfather actually got into the business in 1910 when he came over from Greece and ended up in Ellis Island, went to live with a cousin or actually an uncle in New York City who happened to be in the flower business. And so they stuck him at the age of 12 years old on the street corner in New York City, selling flowers day and night. Didn't matter what the weather was. And he got paid room and board plus $100.
Wow.
And that was in 1910.
Okay. So you're a third generation.
Third generation, right.
Okay.
And then started the new company we just started is with my son, who got out of college 3 or 4 years ago now. He wanted, I didn't think he wanted to really be in a flower shop environment. So we came up with a new model, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, a little bit later.
Sure.
So anyway, so my grandfather was here from the 1910, eventually saved enough money, brought his brothers over, opened up a flower shop in the Grand Concourse in New York. They ran that for probably till the 50s and did pretty well. And then moved down to Northern Virginia in the mid 50s, and then partnered with my father, which was his son-in-law, to open up a flower shop down here. and then they ran that until the 80s, and then I came in.
What made them move south to here to Northern Virginia?
I think they both, it was a tough move for my grandfather because at that, he was probably in his 60s. So, all his life he'd been in New York since he came over here. So it was a tough move, but I think they wanted to get out of the city.
Sure.
And my father, wanted to relocate either in Connecticut or in Virginia. And
Okay.
so they chose down here, Virginia. And so that's, they ended up both coming down here and starting the business.
And the first shop was Seven Corners?
It was in Seven Corners Mall.
Okay. Okay.
So, which was at that time a brand new mall. It was the only regional mall in the area. And it was I believe mid 50s. It was there. So, and then they opened that up, and they worked long hours to get it going. And then obviously it ended up doing fairly well. So they kept it going until I got there.
Okay. George, by the way, I'm curious, are you fluent in Greek, or do you know a little bit or any?
Now, zero. I took 4 years of Greek lessons, and my parents forced upon me when I was a teenager, and I can speak very few words.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those things where if you don't practice it, you don't, you'll lose it real quick.
It is, yeah, that is very true. I've been to Greece. It's a beautiful country.
It is. We've been there a couple times and love it.
Do you still have family back home?
We have virtually nobody that I know.
Okay.
Most everybody had moved here. So we went back actually for my 25th wedding anniversary. We took the whole family there and renewed our vows in Santorini, which was pretty fun. So,
Yeah.
But I had one uncle that was 90 years old that we just missed him in town. So
where in Greece is your family from originally?
3 of the grandparents from Sparta, and then the other one, Napatos, which is up in the mountains.
Okay. I visited Santorini just like you, Athens.
Right.
Yeah, but not Sparta.
Right.
Yeah.
Great culture. So it's the food's great, the atmosphere is good. The Greeks tend to enjoy themselves more than the Americans do.
That is very true. The European way of life is very different than American.
Yeah, it's much. I want to call it better. They take their time. They don't rush.
Yes.
They take their time with lunches. They take their time with dinners. They relax. They still work. But Americans, including myself, 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. and then maybe even after dinner. Those guys, they'll do dinners at 10 o'clock at night and relax and enjoy their lives a little bit better.
George, so you officially joined the business in the 90s, you said, right after graduating college, right?
Yeah, actually 80s.
Oh, 80s. Okay.
Yep.
But prior to that, growing up with a family business, were you involved? Would you go there on the weekends or help out after school, or how was your involvement there?
It was sort of forced labor. Yeah, sort of. So you go in, you help out on the weekends. But Dad always just tried to keep us busy. So you'd help out on Saturday, as starting probably age 12.
Okay.
And then you'd work the holidays, which the major holidays like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. They drag you in there to help out. So and then did that all the way up until college.
So as a 12-year-old and teenager, what were your responsibilities in the family business?
That was doing all the grunt. That was doing all the start from the bottom up, right? So that's doing everything from sweeping the floor to cleaning flowers to prepping vases. We had a basement at Seven Corners, so I was stuck down in the basement. So doing all the sort of the prep work.
So you had the retail exposure, which was sort of the retail sales floor, right? And then at the bottom, that's where you did all the production and cutting and everything else.
Yeah, that's sort of in the mall there wasn't a lot of space. So you had a storefront, which was fairly small, but then you had a hole underneath that you could do a lot of the production. You had refrigerators down there. So and the front was a little bit smaller. So at that time, and we were there probably, I think it was 35 years we were at that location.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Long time.
So when you officially entered again in the 80s, your role there, you come in as a helper, or what was your responsibility?
It wasn't a big operation. So you come in as sort of an employee. My dad paid me, I think it was $20,000, or $22,000 at starting in the 80s. And so you just, you work your way up. And as I took more responsibility on, I think he sort of cut out maybe in the 83, 84. 4 years later. So he pretty much, as I proved myself, was able to run the business and grow it. He got more comfortable and then I made more money. So, it was more of as an entrepreneur, you don't work for a salary. You get paid on what you produce.
Sure.
So I learned that really young.
Back then, I'm sure it's different to now. How were you growing the business once you entered?
It was more of, because there wasn't, don't forget, there's no internet, there's nothing out there. So, it's really in print is what you really went after, and then really just building off your base. And we had a good base on it. So it's not like you're emailing your base, because you can't, right? So it's, you're marketing more archaically with, mailers and, phone calls and sort of soliciting and trying to drum up business. So it's more of on the ground, feet on the ground type.
Sure.
So, and we were able to grow up pretty significantly from 80 when I came in to sort of the mid 90s. It grew a lot. So,
Okay.
and then the mall exposure at that point too helps.
So direct mail, going to people's homes, right? And then you said publications, like maybe the newspaper or other things.
That's it. Yellow Pages was really big.
Okay.
So that's at that point. And that's sort of how we sort of parlayed the Yellow Pages, believe it or not, was how we sort of took the local business and started getting into the national side, because we were able to take ads out in multiple areas other than our own.
Okay.
So we started that's when 800 Flowers came into play, FTD, and they started advertising nationally. And so we started jumping into the game a little bit with the Yellow Pages at that point in time. So that helped the growth sort of from mid 90s to like 2000.
Okay. So then you were shipping all over the country, all over the United States?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it shipping. We basically it was the way the network works in the flower businesses at that time. The only thing you had was other flower shops. So you basically turned into a broker. Somebody from California called me in Virginia, sending flowers back to California. I'd take the order, send it back to a flower shop in California, and I would just make fees and commissions. So there was no actual shipping. They would actually fill the order.
Okay, interesting. And back then, did you have to develop that network, or were you, or was there already a network established? You just
there was already a
network
in place of like 15 to 20,000 flower shops, mainly through FTD at that time, and then 800 eventually created their own network out there.
Okay, so you joined that network. Okay.
Yeah, we were members from a very long time ago. So yeah, so that network's been around since 1920, I think. So.
When there's change in the industry, I notice some people are hesitant and decide not to join, and then some people do join, and you did join that network. And I'm sure you saw other, colleagues or other people that had similar business decided not to join, right?
Yeah, some didn't really want it. They just wanted to stay local.
Okay.
And what it did, even before everything started going national, by being a member, if I had a local client that wanted to send flowers to New York, if I wasn't a member of one of those wire services, FTD 800, and there's a third one, Teleflora, then I had no way of transmitting that order to New York, so I couldn't help the customer. So most flower shops did join at that time.
Okay.
So they were members of it. That way they could handle outbound business.
Sure. But you said your role there when it's at a state then is you're just getting a smaller spread, almost like a commission, or you mentioned, right?
We're a broker at that point, right? So
Okay.
we're just getting a percentage of the order, and then we usually charge fees on top of that, a service fee. So you're getting to keep that. And then a lot of times the wire service pays you a rebate. So the model was actually easier business, believe it or not. You had a 5-minute phone call and you're done.
That's great. So it's less labor intensive from you.
Extremely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you like that model. So that's what grew the business then in the 90s, right?
Yeah, that's when we started the national side of the business, where we spun out another company out of it, and we started competing with 800 Flowers at FTD in 2000. And that's after we'd had probably 500 Yellow Page ads going in different cities. So we had built up a pretty decent national business. And then we spun it out as the internet came on and everything came on. We spun it out and then competed. And that one's still around today also. So we're still competing with 800 Flowers FTD on the national level.
Okay. So in 2000, that's where sort of, late 90s, 2000, the internet, comes into town.
Correct.
And then you decide, again, let me get on this. And there were non-believers again with the internet, especially smaller local mom and pop businesses, right?
Yep.
But you decided just to form your own platform and compete against the giant.
Correct. So we basically ended up in thousands of Yellow Pages, and we started the company in 2000, the spin out. We were 99.9% telephone, which was Yellow Pages in a sense, and zero internet. And then, by the time we get to obviously the mid 2015 to now, we're almost all internet. I think we still have Yellow Page running out there, and can't believe people still use it, but they do.
Really?
But the segment is really small.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's like 2% of our business, if that, comes through Yellow Pages.
Sure. So the majority of everything is basically
Everything's
online.
internet. Yeah, everything's internet based. So
Okay. Okay. I understand. But to do that in the early 2000s, George, and establish your own platform and compete against 1-800-Flowers and the other giants, you
right.
had to have some good marketing dollars behind you to be able to undertake something like this, right?
We did. Yeah, I dumped a bunch in myself. At that point, took a little bit of a chance. We had a good relationship with a bank. And we were able to we had good credit with FTD and 800 where you send the flowers through, because at the end of every month, you owe them a ton of money. So you're giving orders away. So yeah, we ended up dumping a bunch of money in 2000. We wrote our own technology to be able to handle it as well. So we started out with, I believe it was FTD's technology, which was pretty archaic. And then by 2005, we had written our own technology to be able to handle it. So, and then that continued to grow from there.
Okay. So they were actually okay you establishing something similar and almost becoming a competition for them.
It's a very unique business. We are partners in one sense, and we're highly competitive at another. So they have two avenues, and everybody thinks it's a little strange, but I have really good relationships with FTD and 800, as well as the McCann, who owns 800 Flower Shop. I talk to him on a regular basis, but we're partners in one sense, where we give orders through their network, so they're sort of making money there. But then on the other, we're taking orders away from them. We're trying to take orders away from them
Sure.
on the other side. But
Okay.
the wire service business that they call with transmission of orders is highly profitable for them. So it's a weird partnership.
And you're still partners with them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We
Okay.
still are good partners with FTD 800 and Teleflora. So we've
That's
always
interesting.
stayed, good with all of them. And, we'll jump around a little bit based on who's paying a little bit more.
Sure.
So, but all good.
I guess there's enough to go around for the competition.
There is. And there's a lot of people out there, there were at one point a lot of people doing what we did. When the Yellow Pages was really big in the late 90s, early, it was probably 30, 35 companies that were doing it. And then now today, there's probably 3 or 4 that still go after the national market. So most
Wow.
everything, they either bought them up or they've gone out of business, or they're not around anymore. So there's only a handful left.
That's interesting you say that, George. What do you think it's the main thing as far as keeping you still in business compared to everyone else? The majority just drops off for one reason or another.
You just have some people who get tired. You have some people who don't know what they're doing. They can stick around when times are good, but leave when times are bad.
Sure.
And then the market changed a little bit. I mean, FTD wanted some of these guys out, so they bought them out.
Okay.
To capture a little bit more of the market. So we've just never been for sale. So we just keep running, and it's sort of it's a good model. Whether it be around for, it's almost like a broker model. So hence the reason we started doing the new company, which is called Send Smiles, is that model. I'm not sure is going to be around forever. Travel agents or brokers at one point doing really well, and they're nowhere to be seen now. So we're in a sense a broker on the national level.
Sure.
So can they bypass us, or can they go elsewhere? Potentially, yes. So you got sort of protecting the back end now. So why we ended up opening a local flower shop here in Washington, and then now we do the new model, which is Send Smiles, which is the one we're sort of excited about.
So when was Send Smiles established?
We started we did this when my son came to the business, and we started looking for another thing. He brought me probably 10 different ideas outside the flower business, and rejected all of them. They were good. Some of them were good, some, but you have to be able to monetize them, right?
Sure.
So we ended up sticking to what we know best, which is flowers. And I said, let's do something different than you working in a flower shop or doing the flower business. So we came up with a sort of cool model that sort of fixed everything that we believe is wrong with the industry, and we made it consumer centric. So it's 100% about the consumer, about the experience, about delivering what you see, quality of the flowers, easy website, no delivery fees, no hidden fees, and sort of, in a sense, doing what we say we're going to do. So that's what the new model, we created. So we started about 3 years ago. We started writing the technology, and it took about 2 years to write the technology that we did, because it's a little bit complex in the routing piece of it that has to do with the way we run the business. So we spent 2 years doing that and then launched the company right in the middle of COVID, March, I want to say 15th. We shut it down March 20th and figured that wasn't a good time to be starting. Shelved it just for a little bit, tweaked the software, got the model a little bit better, and then relaunched in July of last year.
Okay.
So
when you mentioned just now here for 2 years, you were working on it. Is this in-house? You have the developers, or is this sort of someone else you outsource elsewhere?
No, we actually hooked up with a company in Romania, and we actually went there to visit them. We did some research and found a really good company there. We had a 12-person team of programmers there that were writing the programs for us, anywhere from front end, back end, testers, quality guys. So the team now is reduced a little bit to about 6 because we're still adding on nuts and bolts to the software and improving it. And then, so the model really is to prove out in the DC metro area. It's really an on-demand. We do 2-hour deliveries. We do same-day deliveries. It's Washington, DC and Metro and Baltimore also.
Okay.
So the model itself works phenomenally well. It's been received, by the consumer exceptionally well. We have, I think, 200 reviews on Google. They're all 5-star. So
awesome.
It's not a bad, I'm waiting for that one bad review, which I hope we never get. But so we're just really focused on the consumer. And so we wanted to really provide, I've been doing this a lot of years. So we just want to give, almost like if I was given to you or somebody else, I want it to be perfect, so we're really out there trying to deliver a really, really good product to the consumer and fast.
Sure. So how is this model, George, different from the model you were doing before Sense Miles was established, where the nationals, 1-800-Flowers, Teleflower, all of them?
Right. It basically eliminates, we control the product from the farm all the way to the consumer, and it's all cold chain. So we basically, it comes to the US cold chain, it stays in cold all the way up on the refrigerated trucks. Mm-hmm. And then we ship it out, or we send it out to our consumer refrigerated vans. So we don't, it never sits out in the heat. The cold chain's never broken.
Okay.
Plus we're able to do it we're able to do it 7 days a week, which the competitors can't. We deliver on Sundays, Saturdays, Mondays. A lot of the competitors ship flowers in a box. So they're exposed to heat, cold. There's no delivery on Saturday, or Sundays and Mondays. And so again, we sort of got a little bit of an edge on them, but we're again localized. So those guys are national. So it's, we can beat them in DC and Baltimore, and as we prove the model out here, the goal is to expand it city by city. So we're sort of laying the infrastructure and the pipe down as we go.
That's interesting.
It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah. You're just proving the model first here locally.
Correct. Okay. So everything's proven out except for the monetary piece. So it's all, because you got to dump a bunch of money in to make it work. And so, we've gotten good clientele so far. I think we're up to about 12,000 clients or 12,000 customers, which is pretty good in about 8 months. But we're spending a lot of advertising dollars with radio, TV, branding on buses in DC and Metro. And so it's more of a branding exercise, sure, which is way out of my wheelhouse. So I always like to know what it costs me to get an order through the door, and it's not happening right now. So.
Okay, so you're not able to pinpoint that number right now just because everything's being dumped into the marketing side of things.
Right. It's just normally again, for me at least, I'm able to track in all the businesses where my business is coming from, whether it be Google, emails, social. You're able to track it all. When you start trying to brand yourself, it's a totally different exercise. So you can't pinpoint a cost per acquisition.
Sure.
So because you're really out there trying to get your name out there, which costs money and time. So that's sort of the stage we're in right now. So we'll have some good data as we probably get to the end of this year on it and again, I'm confident it's going to monetize and it's going to work. So it's just, you're just spending more money, than you obviously would like to spend to get it started.
With the whole marketing side of things, George, are you dealing with that, working with it here internally, or do you have an agency who's helping you out with marketing?
We actually have a partner in New York called Ruckus. Real good marketing branding company that we founded and are searched through branding. They love the model, so they actually bought into the company. So they own a small piece of the company. So they have taken over the sort of the whole marketing arm of the company. So from the branding piece to putting the whole marketing plan together to implementing the marketing plan. So they basically have taken a full role in the company. So that saves us. So right now it's myself and my son that are pretty much running the sort of the back end stuff on it. And then we have them obviously running the marketing. We have the Amazon team, which is in Romania doing the IT.
Sure.
And then, I'm using the facility that we have for another business to sort of fulfill the orders.
Sure. So, and that facility you said, is it in DC or is it
It's actually, it's in Chantilly, Virginia.
Okay.
That's in the suburbs
Okay.
out here.
So
that's where we dispatch all the trucks.
So you receive the flowers cold from other countries, foreign countries. You bring it to Chantilly still cold, and then you deliver it cold to the end consumer.
Right.
Okay, that's great.
So, yeah, so we bring it, basically it goes from Quito, Ecuador, or Colombia. It goes through Miami. It gets through customs and then gets brought up to us in refrigerated trucks. We process the flowers here. We arrange them in the vases and then get them out in our refrigerated trucks from there. So it's all a pretty quick, seamless process.
For marketing, you mentioned here several avenues. You said buses in the DC metro area. I'm sure digital you have to be as far as Google and even social, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we're all over Google and Bing. We're search engine marketing there. The organic stuff, we're starting to do a lot of the SEO. That's a long tail. That takes a little longer to get orders through the door. But then we're doing the buses. We've done radio with the 3 radio stations we're doing. We've done TV. We shot an ad with these guys, which is pretty funny and good, that we've run periodically through the last 6 months. And then you got all kinds of other stuff from social media. You got, influencers. We're doing a big we call it the Send Smiles Project, where we're actually giving away hundreds of arrangements every month to pillars of the community, people like first responders, nurses, nursing homes, just to make people smile. So we figure it's our way of giving back a little bit, especially after the pandemic. So that's an advertising way too, but it's also for us to sort of help people and get people smiling. So we take nominations every month, and then we pick one. We're just starting it this month, so we're getting ready towards the end of this month to pick a winner, and then we'll show up with whatever they need in a sense. So if it's a nursing home, and there's like 200 patients, in the nursing home or people, why not brighten everybody's day up by putting a flower arrangement on their bedside?
I love that. No wonder now I see how you go from, I think you said 8 months, from 0 to over 12,000 customers.
So far.
Yeah.
So we should grow. I mean, we feel confident we'll be able to grow this pretty good. I mean, again, the new way, which is really, people look at reviews, right? And people, they'll look at, ours, we're very focused on the consumer. We want to make it easy for them to order. We want to make it, our price points are way below, way below their competitors. Okay. So we're trying to bring everything in, a good value and be able to do it quick and be able to make it really easy, to send a smile, sure, to brighten up somebody's day.
George, I'm curious, you mentioned competitors and price points. So let's say for, I don't know, Valentine's Day, we just had a couple months back. If I want to send a dozen roses to my wife, I go to 1-800-Flowers. Typically, if I'm in the DC metro area, roughly how much that would cost me for me to get it home? Sure.
Valentine's Day is a weird time to do because the prices are so high, but you're probably going to pay $85 plus another $20 in service fee or delivery. So you're going to be close to $100 or a little bit over.
Okay.
If they ship it, you might be a little bit less from one of their farms because they have farms that they ship it from. Ours we started out at 65 and ended up at 75, no delivery charge for Valentine's Day.
Oh, so that is a big difference.
Considerably, yes. Yeah, people like the no delivery, and a lot of times people bake the delivery charge into the price of the product. But if you look at our product and look at competitors' products, our price is actually maybe even the same or a little less than theirs, but there's no fees added on. So it's relatively, it's definitely cheaper than theirs.
Sure. How is it now? And I know you went through this working with your father since now your son's 4th generation into the business, but how is it now working with your son?
Love it. So we have a good rapport on it. So, we've always had a close relationship. But he's liking the entrepreneurship piece of it. So getting out and sort of, he sees what it can turn into.
Sure.
And like unlike some fathers, I wanted him to be 50-50 partners. So we went into it. I said, listen, I don't want control. I want you to feel like you got control. Because when I came into it, my dad had control. The old school was, okay, I keep control until I give it to you. And I said, well, I want him to build it and have the vested interest also. So we went into it 50-50 partners. So he's loving it. And so we have a good rapport. And I always tell him, we young versus old, right? So we have a difference of opinion a lot of times on how to do things. And what I've realized is, just because I've been there, done it, I'm not always right. So I've had to relinquish and say, okay, you're right, more times than I have before. And I always tell them too, it's, we'll get heated discussions, but when the discussion's over, you just get back to work, right? So This is, it's nothing personal. I feel one way, you feel the other way. Let's come to an agreement. And then you just, okay, let's go. And so that's the way we work. So nobody's ever, been mad, walked out of here and said, okay, I'm mad, I'm done, whatever. It's just one of those things where you have your disagreements and then you fix them and then you move on.
Sure. That's good. I'm sure when there's family gatherings or maybe he's over the house for dinner, does it always then turn into business, some talks?
No, we keep that separate.
Oh, really? Okay, that's great.
Okay. Think about it. We see each other, and I work a lot of hours still because I enjoy doing it, and we're building a new company. So we're literally together for 9-10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and sometimes 6. So we see enough of each other to talk business.
Okay.
So we leave the personal stuff and sort of enjoy the personal time.
Okay, that's good. Do you have any other children?
I do. I have 2 daughters. One just graduated nursing school at GW.
Okay.
So she's at Inova Fairfax in the pediatric ward there. And then I just had another one graduate High Point University and has gone into the event planning business. So I got a job doing that. So I got 2 kids off the payroll real quick.
Well, that's good. Congrats.
Thank you. So I got a pay raise this year.
There you go. With the event planning though, there's some synergy there, right?
There is. Yeah,
okay.
We have the local, not with Send Smile so much because Send Smile is really on demand. We have a finite number of products that we send and can do quick. So we really don't get into funeral work or weddings or big parties, things like that. So, but the other company we have can handle that. So there's a little bit of synergy there.
Okay. Did they stay local? Your son or daughter who's doing event planning?
I did. Now? So I got all 3 of them local, which is good. I got my daughter at Fairfax Hospital, Nova Fairfax. And then my other daughter is got a job in Leesburg.
Okay. All right. Great.
Fairly close. Yeah.
Okay. That's nice.
All good. So we like our kids. We like them around.
Yeah. They're always home or at least near home.
Yeah. The kids are fun. I mean, we're the parents that would like our kids to just stay with us. We a lot of parents want the kids out and done. We like having them around. So
that's good. Is your wife also Greek descent or no?
No,
okay.
Not at all. She's a mixture of a lot of things, but no.
No, because I know that the Greek culture is very family oriented, it's all about family. And sometimes a couple houses down, then you have this brother or sister or cousin or whatever it may be.
Right.
Yes.
We have my wife has this visual, and it'll never happen because the kids won't let it happen, nor will I. But she like a compound. Our house, the pool, and then three other houses.
So, it sounds a lot like my wife.
Right. She'd do that in a heartbeat. I think the kids, as much as we love them, I think that might be too close.
I agree with you 100%. I tell her, you need to let them fly. Let them be kids.
Right. You got to give them their independence and let them think. So
yes.
Otherwise, it's not a good thing.
Very true. What would you say now, George, that drives and motivates you?
I think this is my last, I've done a bunch of businesses in the past. This is probably my 7th or 8th that I've done. So this is sort of I think it's my last one. I'm getting older. But I love working and I love building something. So this one's sort of a fun one to do because you're sort of changing the model of the floral business a little bit. And I'm doing it with my son. So that makes it a lot more fun. So I get up every day. I'm happy, always have been. And driven to, I get up, I tell people I get up happy every day. I don't always go to bed happy, but I get up happy every day. So, because I love what I do. So I try to you work hard, and I tried retiring once, and I stayed home for about 2 years, and I had my hands in different things.
Okay.
But I didn't have anywhere to go. So I'd work out of my office at the house, and one day my wife came to me and said, and she looks at me, she says, either you're going or I'm going. I said, it's better if I go. It's probably cheaper if I go. So I'll go back to work because you're in their space, right? You know, they have their own domain, and now all of a sudden you're like hanging around all day long, telling them to be quiet when you're on the phone, and messing up the kitchen. And so I learned quick, or not that quick, 2 years, but so I decided to get out.
That's great. The other 7 businesses you were saying you were involved, were they all sort of flower related or totally different?
No, some of them, most of them are. I have actually a salon and spa in Great Falls that I sort of fell into a little bit. So I have that running, which is in Ruston. Actually, it was in Great Falls. We just moved to Ruston. And then I have an identity theft company that sells insurance, identity theft insurance. It's a small company that we sort of piggybacked into one of the other ones. And then we have a rewards program, which people buy into, a monthly sort of continuity thing where they get all kinds of discounts for a monthly fee. So we've been running that for probably 15 years. And then I've been to a bunch of real estate in between. So
sure. Are you doing that day to day, or is your day to day mostly in the flower business?
Day to day is right now. The day to day is almost all in the flower business. So it's running the one local retail sort of shop, and then it's the Send Smiles. It's taking a lot of time to, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff to grow it and to make sure everything's happening. Sure. So we're putting a lot of time into that right now. That's sort of our main focus.
Do you still have the retail store for the flower business?
I do. So it's more of a delivery service, but it's still an operation. It's sort of a full service flower shop.
Okay.
So we'll do anywhere from weddings, funerals, and parties and everyday stuff. And it has a really large selection of things you can get.
It's still in the Seven Corners area, or?
No. That one actually I sold about 2008. So this was another one we started up about 2015. We just started a new one up, and we really didn't want the retail piece of it, so we just set it up in a warehouse.
Okay, and, so Chantilly.
Chantilly, yeah. So we didn't want any really customers coming in. It was more of because the money's really in delivering, not really people walking in anymore. Mm-hmm. So they can get their flowers at Costco or the grocery store or whatever. They're just picking up a bunch. But unfortunately, with Google now, when somebody types in flowers, you pop up, right? So we get people coming in a little bit periodically.
What is it that you're most proud of thus far, George, in your business career? You've done so many things.
Proud of? That's a tough question. I don't look at it that way. I guess I guess I'm proud that they, not all have been successful, right? So not everything you touch turns good. So I think it's more the perseverance of, when things go south. I'm real good about figuring out how to get out of the south piece. Mm-hmm. Things turn ugly and they're not going the way you're supposed to go. You sort of reevaluate, you put the brakes on, and you reevaluate, and you try to get out of it. So, and every business owner has gone through, how to make payroll, how are you going to do this, how are you going to keep running, and you always figure a way out. Sure. So I'm pretty good at that. I don't want to say I've had a lot of practice at it, but.
I'm actually glad you mentioned when things don't work out, because that is something that happens in business day in and day out. When do you know, as far as when to cut it and when it's time? Do you think more of a time frame, or what do you look at?
I think it comes to cash flow. So when your cash dwindles away to nothing, that's when it's time to. But I think you sort of see things if they're going the wrong way. We don't. I've stuck with things way too long. And I don't know why. You just sort of stick with them, hoping they're going to turn, mm-hmm. and they don't turn. So we've tried a couple things. From the national side, we got into the shipping piece. Where we'd actually, instead of sending flowers to a flower shop, we would ship it out of our warehouse. And we did it because we wanted a brand, and we really wanted to get our product in people's hands. And it took us about 6 years to figure out we were losing money. It's better just to go back to the original model. The thought process was try to brand control the product, but it was too expensive, for us to do that. So we're making a lot less money doing that. So we cut that, or you can turn it around to something like Google, where Google's too high, on your cost per acquisition, and you keep doing it because you're getting volume, but you're losing money on every order. And it's like, okay, why am I doing this? It's like the top line sales, but your bottom line looks terrible.
Sure.
So so there's always things that get changed.
So you've been involved in several businesses, and I'm sure having the right team around you is highly important. How do you
Yes.
pick your team? How do you go about doing all that?
I guess there's not a whole lot of pick. The original flower shop was, a guy went into, and it was just me and my dad, and then, he retired. So as we branched off and did the national things, I partnered with my brother-in-law, who's done a phenomenal job, and we partnered on the national side. So he sort of put the team together there, and he did the operations. So on the local side, we've been around so long in the industry that we've been able to not accumulate, but really attract good people, from designers to customer service, things like that. There's not a big, executive staff, in these businesses. So it's more, these are more small businesses, that, as long as you got good employees, which we really want to have, we always treat them really well. So we're able to attract good people to us.
That's good. You mentioned before your son and you established Send Smiles. He came to you with a couple of different business ideas. What advice would you give someone out there any business who comes to you and say, George, I want to start wood business. What should they look out for? Maybe one thing or a couple things.
Right. I think in general, there's so many good ideas out there. If you watch Shark Tank, right? Look how many ideas they see and pass, but everybody's got a great idea, right? But I guess when you really sit down and pen to paper, you look at it and start laying it out, does it really work? And a lot of times it doesn't. And then sometimes the ones that work, there's no way to monetize them. You're never going to make a dime. So you really got to look at the model, and you really got to understand. I always tell people that in a business like business, I have to, I started out bottom up. My son started out when he first came to college, he went into the driving piece, he went into the warehouse, he went into everything that had to do with the operation. In order for you to be a good exec, you got to understand how those numbers on the whiteboard and how the numbers get into a budget. And if you don't understand how they get there, then you're going to have this fictitious budget and wrong number somewhere. So if you understand exactly what happens on the ground, you can better, find out whether your company's going to be successful or not. If you don't understand the whole mechanics of it, you're going to have a real tough time.
Okay.
And lose money or somebody else's money.
Yeah. Great advice. You mentioned you always like to wake up early. Do you have any specific traits or things you do daily that has helped you throughout your career?
Early on, I used to get up and work out before work, which I don't do anymore. I tend to do that. Actually, I have a little bit lazier schedule now. So I do get up early, but the schedule was have your coffee, walk the dog, do your emails, go work out, get to work at 9 or 9:30, which is, you don't want to give that advice to anybody that's young.
Yes.
Right? Because everybody, I remember somebody told me that he read somewhere that successful people get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and get to work by 6. So he says, I wasn't that smart, so I got up at 4 and got to work by 5. So that's sort of me. I get up, I do my thing. You got your routines in the morning. Working out in the morning actually helps you because it gets the blood flowing, the oxygen. You think better. That's gotten older. I guess it's a little tougher maybe. So especially if I'm not working a lot, then it gets a little bit easier. But if I feel like I have to be somewhere and do, it takes a little time away from that.
Okay. So wake up early and work out first thing in the morning then.
I think that's what a lot of successful people do. They get up, they get their workout in, they feel good, they get their cup of coffee, they get to work, get to the desk, and they're at the desk by 7 o'clock in the morning after they do their whole routine. Some earlier, some later. So, but everybody, that doesn't necessarily make it successful either.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to have a brain, you still have to have a plan, you still got to know what you're doing.
Sure.
So it just helps.
What would you say is your biggest challenge right now, George, with your role at Send Smiles?
Biggest challenge. I don't think there's really not a challenge. We understand the whole back end of the business, and we can implement it. The back end, which is basically the flowers and delivering and create the experience, is real good. I think the biggest challenge, I think we talked about a little bit earlier, was trying to get consumers through the door at a reasonable cost per acquisition. Mm-hmm. So that's where I think our next focus is. I got a call actually tomorrow to review our whole new sort of marketing plan, which is going to be more social based, organic, more growing it a little differently than spending high dollars in radio and TV and all that. So, but it's just, I think that's probably the only challenge I got right now. Everything else is in place. The model's proved out, the product good, people received it. So now it's a matter of, you can only spend so much per customer, and then you got to look at the lifetime value of the customer, and then that number's got to work. But when it gets way skewed, that's when the cash drain comes.
Sure. What do you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of your business career?
How to listen better. So in the beginning of the career, and probably 20 years into my career, I talk too much. So so you don't listen, and you never learn anything by talking. So I think as I've gotten older, you learn to listen to people a little bit better, especially your kids and whoever's immediately around you. So you try to be better. I think that's probably one of my biggest flaws early on that I've gotten better at. So I'm not perfect yet either. You can probably ask my wife on that one. So.
That's a great one, though. What do you do now differently as far as listening better? Are you just trying to sit back, or anything you do that helps you out with that?
I try to refrain from talking, which is
Okay.
tough. So when you get passionate about something, you're talking about business, you always want to talk, right? So it's a matter of just taking a deep breath and listening to what somebody else has to say, even if you don't agree with it. And like I told you before, my son comes with stuff, and he starts talking, and immediately I'm like, no, and then I got to shut up and listen to it. And some of the time he's right. So I would have never listened before.
Sure.
So it's just you got to listen. I think between older and newer too ways of thinking. Everything's changed. So you have to listen to the younger sort of generation, and you have to listen to what their thought process is, because they think totally different than we do. And you're probably right in between, I think, between my son and myself.
Yeah. So
or a little on the lower side.
You work with family most of your business career, and you've always hired also professionals. Is there anyone that comes to mind as far as having a mentor, and what did you learn from that person?
Really never had a mentor.
Okay.
So it really never did. So I did go out to, the only thing that's helped me is when the kids were little, my mind was always in the business. So I would go home at the end of the day, and my kids would talk to me. I didn't hear anything they were saying. And so they would, then finally they would go, Dad, George. And I'd jump up, I was like, this is when they were like 7, 8. So I got into a coaching class out in Chicago that I went to once a quarter. It was like a life coach. It was a group of 25 guys that were in the same thing. Great teacher, great guy out there. So it got me to sort of focus a little bit better. So as I started going forward, so that's that was tough when just having your kids. Your kids are there, and I spent a lot of physical time with them, but I hate to measure the mental time.
Yeah. So you would go out once a quarter, every quarter, fly out to Chicago for this class.
Yes. Yeah, we'd have a nice dinner, with just I had 3 or 4 guys that I got friends with, and you just talk business. You just talk in general about, just life, growing yourself, your business. It helped me. I did it for about 10 years. The first 4 or 5 really helped me. The last 5 were just to go out to dinner.
Yeah.
You hit sort of a wall, so, but it was good.
Okay, that's good. So you would be home or doing something with the family, and you wouldn't be on the computer or doing something else. You would just be there presently, but your mind would be working.
Mine was somewhere else. Yeah,
Okay.
Mine was somewhere else. Just thinking about something, and it could be I was looking at something, or just what you really weren't. You were there. You weren't present.
Sure.
They talk about that all the time. People being there, but they're not present. Yeah, I think that's most everybody these days, because they got their phone they're looking at, and it's sort of like, okay, I'm talking to somebody, but he's looking down, half the time. So
you're not the only one. I do that too. Sometimes I'm on my phone and doing things, and I have the kids, and yes.
Right. Well, you realize that it's not. I mean, I play golf very much, and and I get on my phone because I'm antsy, just in between shots or whatever. And so I've learned to put it away now, because when I see somebody else doing it, it's like, oh, you're not interested in playing golf today? You want to work? And so now I put it away. It really sends a bad signal, if you're socializing in any way, shape, or form, and you're somewhere else.
That is true. It looks like you're not really enjoying that moment with that person. Right. Yes.
Right. Yeah, you got something else going on. So I took a lot of abuse, so I finally put it away.
Yes. And it's not that you're trying to be rude. You just, I see it as being more productive with my time, and any downtime I can be doing this or that, or I have this to do.
Right.
Yes.
I think it has to do with the it just can't. I mean, this is always something. I think everybody's different, but I can't sit still. Like I'm having trouble just sitting here. You know, we're sitting here for an hour, right? So
Well, don't worry, we're almost coming to an end here very soon.
stay as long as you like. I'm good.
So George, what does the next 5 year, what does the future look for you and Sense Miles?
I think the future is good. I mean, I think we're going to take about another year to prove the model out. We're actually out looking to raise capital now. So once we get funding, we're looking for like probably seed money. You know, we'll be looking for funding for the company. Once we prove the model out here, our next stop is Miami, and then we'll sort of work our way back up the coast and then out towards Texas. So these things are sort of plug and play. They're pretty, the way we've set it up with the technology and the warehouse and the products, compared to a flower shop running,
Sure.
It's like a flower shop's a 10 because there's so many moving pieces, products, things going on. This is like a 1. I mean, once it's in motion, the way we got it set up and the way the technology is set up, it runs by itself. So to pop these things open somewhere else, it's really a warehouse, refrigerators and tables, and you hire some designers, you get some trucks and you're good to go. So there's a training piece, but it doesn't take a lot to really pop these things up and open them up.
Okay.
So
because
the next 5 years, I think, ideally we want to prove it out here. Miami would be the next step, and then we'll go from city to city based on the demographics.
You think once you prove the model here, maybe in the next year, you said, then the next market more than likely will be Miami, South Florida?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's it. That'll be our next. And then we really don't want to, there's 2 components to this too. There's a spoke piece of it, which we really didn't talk about, but it's like, we're a hub right here where we make all the product and we send it out directly from here. So we figured out is why have labor like in Philadelphia or in Raleigh or whatever. So we would actually do all the production here, and then at nighttime shoot the finished product out to these spokes. So basically then it's a small warehouse, very little labor, and you just do the same thing in that city. They got the product all ready to go, trucks get dispersed, and it's just it's an easy process. So we have the hub we're proving out now. The Miami would be another hub, but like if we do Philly or Raleigh, or I think we got Virginia Beach is another one, that would be like a spoke on it. So once we start doing those, then and we prove them out, then they're really pretty simple to get going.
Okay. So for the spoke, if it's a spoke location like Virginia Beach or Raleigh or anything between DC Metro and Miami, you would go into a much smaller warehouse, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Which would just have refrigeration. Okay. So at nighttime, the finished arrangements, ours is different too. We don't deliver in boxes or anything like that. So it's a finished piece. So if you get a product from us, it's already arranged, it's ready to go. So we would do all the arranging here in Chantilly and then shoot it out at nighttime in refrigerated box trucks and just load their refrigerator up with their inventory. So in the morning, when the person gets there, we'll have one person running it. They'll have 3, 4, 5, whatever the trucks are. They'll just load the trucks up just like we do at the hub. All the product will be there, from the flowers to the plants to the add-ons. And then we're going to expand into some gift line also from that point. So everything will be there. So there's really no labor of cleaning the flowers, prepping the flowers, anything like that. So you've eliminated all that labor in that location.
What type of gifts are you thinking of incorporating besides flower arrangements?
We're sort of coming up with a list now, but it could be anywhere from gift baskets, wine, cigars. I mean, we're trying to really identify what people really would like to send and be able to do quickly. So it could be from chocolate, all the normal ones.
Sure.
We're trying to look for some cool stuff. The bad part is we haven't been able to go to any gift shows because they've all been shut down with COVID. So it's you do all your searching online right now. So we'll probably launch something probably by midsummer on the gift side.
I like that. I'm a big gift person. You'll give a run for the money for what is it, wine basket or Harry and I'm blanking.
Harry, you got Harry and David, and you got wine basket. Both of them.
Yeah.
So Harry and David is actually 800 flowers.
Okay. Oh, okay.
They own that. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So I'm curious, for the hub model compared to the spoke model, besides smaller warehouse, you probably will need less trucks, right? Or is it pretty much the same?
So you'll need the same amount, depending on the demographics in the area, how many trucks you put out there. So it depends on how busy you are and really the size of the population in that area. So, ideally, you want to have as many trucks as you can on the road. That means you're doing a lot of deliveries. So, and again, the less trucks you got, the more spread out they are too.
Yeah.
So, which costs a little bit more. So the idea is to get tons of deliveries, almost like Amazon, right? They just throw packages out every house. So those guys can take like 300 packages a day, just going around a circle.
Yeah, that's good. George, last question. When you're not busy thinking about business or work, what do you like to do for fun?
Travel. Love traveling. So we tried, my wife and I, before COVID, so I would take off about 3 months a year.
That's great.
So, but in the 9 months, I probably worked like a year and a half. So, and when I'm gone, I'm in touch too. But yeah, we went to Greece a couple of years ago. Next trip, we're going to Tahiti.
Okay.
That's planned for next summer. So we're taking all the kids. So that'll be a sort of a fun thing. So we like to get out of town.
Okay, that's good. So you do some solo trips, just you and the wife, and also with the family.
Absolutely, we do both. We like our family, so we try to bring them. But it gets harder and harder now because they're all, especially with my son Will. He's got the Send Smiles to run, so we both can't be gone for long periods.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2 girls now have jobs, so it's tough to get off a lot of time. So we'll take them where we can, and then we'll ditch them where we have to.
I love that. George, lastly, where can people find more information about you and Send Smiles, website, anything else?
Yeah, just at sendsmiles.com.
Okay.
And then you can go there. There's a lot of information on us, the background, the Send Smiles project, which is the giveaway or the give back. And then you can see all our products and see what we're doing there.
Awesome. George, thank you so much for coming on the show. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay, Otto, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Take care.
Okay, thanks.